Alright, so the obvious point. When I wake up in the morning, I say to myself, what? Did I sleep? My God, I'm still here. I'll be in this world forever. With it, you can write and record different percussive rhythms into non-volatile memory. At some point, the subtle goes to sleep. The mind goes to sleep, and the soul goes to sleep. And why I nearly always feel thwarted and pissed when I finish them. John and I had lived in Los Angeles County from 1964 until 1988. What? I asked. What did she see? In this manual, we shall refer to each bar of music as a rhythm pattern. This would require ingenuity. You have no life. If impossible promises were all there was to it, we'd catch on after a while, and it would stop being so profitable for publishers to churn these memoirs out. To merely think or wish a thing is to see it materialize instantly in the dream. We set up computers and printers there. We had meetings there. The TR-606 can do all this and more, so each switch has at least two functions: to be articulate, perceptive, truthful, profound. Didn't you live too? I asked my aunt. We could work until 8 or 9 in the evening there and transmit the pages to whichever director or producer we were working with. The body wakes up, the ego wakes up, and then go to dinner at a Chinese restaurant on Melrose where we did not need a reservation. Then they all laughed and laughed. I had stayed over the years in some dozens of rooms identical to the one in which I was now staying in. And the person remembers very little, if anything, of the extraordinary tour that just occurred. My mother brought tea and preserves. The TR-606 is exceptionally compact, and for maximum portability features battery operation for all functions, including a self-contained headphone amplifier, huge sums of money at stake, and enormous crowds of people watching her do it. The place where I would still be the person I had been before any of this happened. Worse, with a crowd of spectators, maybe all vocally hoping you fail so that their favorite will beat you. In the deep, dreamless state, individuals revert to their pure, formless self. Ha, she said. If you really want to know, read Dostoevsky. When I saw a dermatologist in Santa Monica and street work forced me to pass within 3 blocks of our house in Brentwood, I did not look left or right. This music can then quite easily be amended. If it's just that we naively expect geniuses in motion to be also geniuses in reflection, then their failure to do that shouldn't really seem any crueler or more disillusioning than Kant's glass jaw or Eliot's inability to hit the curve. I could avoid driving to UCLA on Sunset. I could avoid passing the intersection at Sunset in Beverly Glen, where for 6 years I had turned off to the Westlake School for Girls. So I asked her once more, Sonia, tell me no or yes. Do you have a life? The problem with this answer is that I and the rest of the US book market aren't that stupid. At some point during the deep dreamless state, the soul stirs, awakens, and emerges from its sleep and formlessness, and dreaming once again begins. In theory, its very corridor was permeated with the associations I was trying to avoid. My grandmother said to all our faces, "Why do you laugh?" But my aunt said, "Laugh." Never once in 5 weeks did I drive into the part of Brentwood in which we had lived from 1978 until 1988. At the supper table, nobody spoke. The sleep cycle is fascinating. The body goes to sleep, and that leaves only the subtle, mind and soul, and the causal, formless witness. What if? Outside the exempt zone that was the Beverly Wilshire, I plotted my routes. I remained on guard. Anyone who buys the idea that great athletes are dim should have a close look at an NFL playbook. or a basketball coach's diagram of a 3-2 zone trap. The Roland TR-606 is a portable, economical, automatic, and fully programmable rhythm device, which can memorize your own rhythms with exceptional flexibility. Grandmother asked, "What about us?" My aunt sighed. "Little girl, darling, let's take a nice walk." For me, though, the important question is why this is always so bitterly disappointing, and why I keep buying these sports memoirs with expectations that my own experience with the genre should long ago have modified. It wasn't life, it was torture. A deeper self is speaking here, so for goodness sake, pay attention. Furthermore, adjacent rhythm patterns may be chained together into single, more complex patterns for divisions as small as 64th notes, or for more complex time signatures. Great athletes usually turn out to be stunningly inarticulate about just those qualities and experiences that constitute their fascination. Between 1988 and the time he died, we had spent significant amounts of time there, usually at the very hotel in which I was now staying. You know it? What will be? I knew by reflex how to work the key and open the safe and adjust the shower head. Because he was a wonderful boy, only 17, all by herself, your grandmother picked him up from the street. He was dead. She took him home in the wagon. So as the body goes to sleep, the subtle mind and soul appear vividly in dreams, visions, images, and occasionally archetypal illuminations. So, doesn't that make her happy? My aunt said, what she saw? With up to 7 different drum sounds, plus accent. Ever try to concentrate on doing something difficult with a crowd of people watching? When we were living in Malibu and had meetings in town, we would bring Quintana and stay at the Beverly Wilshire. After we moved to New York and needed to be in Los Angeles for a picture, we would stay there, sometimes for a few days, sometimes for weeks at a time. My father walked into the room. He said, "At least she lived." It remains very hard for me to reconcile the vapidity of Austin's narrative mind on the one hand, and the extraordinary mental powers that are required by world-class tennis on the other. So the TR-606 has mainly 2 basic functions. One of them is writing, playing a rhythm pattern. The other is writing, playing a rhythm track. Quintana was born in Los Angeles County at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica. She went to school there, first in Malibu and later at what was then still the Westlake School for Girls. From this, you wouldn't believe what a life she had. The former describes the writing of individual bars into computer memory to be played later, while the latter describes writing the entire rhythm track of a piece of music into computer memory, which also may be played later. What else is worth it? Personal and verbal access to an intrinsically public and performative kind of genius. Which is why prophets, saints, sages, and depth psychologists have always given so much attention to dreams. When you're bigger, you'll be in a demonstration or a strike or something. It doesn't have to be you. Let someone else. I saw immediately in Los Angeles that its potential for triggering this vortex effect could be controlled only by avoiding any venue I might associate with either Quintana or John. For my part, though, I think there's something deeper and scarier that keeps my hope one step ahead of past experience as I make my way to the bookstore's register. Someday I'll tell you. One thing I'll tell you right now, don't carry the main flag. We always specified the old building. I knew the housekeepers, I knew the manicurists, I knew the doorman who would give John the bottled water when we came back from walking in the morning. My aunt was making the bed. Since the limitations and restrictions of the gross body are not present in the dream state, the subtle mind and soul can express their deepest wishes. What else, I asked. The Beverly Wilshire seemed, when Quintana was at UCLA, the only safe place for me to be. The place where everything would be the same. The place where no one would know about or refer to the events of my recent life. Programming several rhythms can be accomplished and stored in a particular order in the memory, forming the entire rhythm track of a song. One reason I don't close my eyes at night is I think about you. What if, someone was always saying in these meetings. Then you can adjust the volume of each percussion sound with individual level controls for full flexibility over the final mix. Look, your grandmother, she doesn't sweat. Nothing has to be washed. Her stockings, her underwear, the sheets. One sort of answer, of course, is that commercial autobiographies like these promise something they cannot deliver. My grandmother sat in her chair. She said, "When I lie down at night, I can't rest. My bones push each other." The TR-606 can be connected to a variety of digital sequencers, synthesizers, and other devices for synchronized rhythmic control of sound, expanding its live performance, composing, and recording applications. And that leaves only formlessness, or deep, dreamless sleep. "Doesn't she love us?" I asked. "Love you?" my aunt said. I could avoid keeping the car radio tuned to the stations I used to drive by, avoid locating KRLA, an AM station that had called itself the heart and soul of rock and roll. It was still, in the early 1990s, programming the top hits of 1962. Your children, your cousin in Connecticut. Shankara, Freud, and Jiminy Cricket all agree. A dream is a wish your heart makes when you're fast asleep. Maybe what keeps us buying in the face of constant disappointment is some deep compulsion, both to experience genius in the concrete and to universalize genius in the abstract. When Jean Moore offered me the use of her house on the Pacific Coast Highway, 3/8 of a mile past the house in which I had lived from 1971 until 1978, I invented reasons why it was essential for me to stay instead at the Beverly Wilshire. Then my grandmother took her hand. "Sonia, never once in 5 weeks did I drive up the Pacific Coast Highway to Malibu." "Because Russia carried the flag? That's why?" I asked. I had last stayed in such a room in October 2003, alone, doing promotion 2 months before John died. When using the track right function, 8 track positions give a maximum of 7 different compositions of 64 bars each, and one of 256 bars. And can be chained together in various combinations for extended compositions of up to 256 bars. Or at an archival film of Miss Tracy Austin repeatedly putting a ball in a quartz corner at high speed from 78 feet away. A programmable DC bar allows you to program the final bar of a track composition to begin again at the first bar. To begin again at the first bar. To begin again at the first bar. Alright, so the obvious point.